We have no consent agenda tonight. Now for our old business under public hearing. We have second reading CUP 13-06, consideration action on application by Lifegate International for conditional use permit for a church, request for variances from the zoning ordinance, development regulations, buffer, landscape, and tree ordinance for 3.844 plus or minus acres of vacant property, zone general business district, and located at 2410 Wisteria Drive in Snellville. This is the vacant gym in the Kmart Hobby Lobby parking lot behind the old Ryan's building. Mr. Davis, you want to give us an update on this?
As the mayor stated, this is CUP 1306. It is a conditional use permit to allow the old gym building in the back corner of the Hobby Lobby Ryan's Shopping Center, Wisteria Square. It is this building that you see on the overhead. As a redevelopment project, we've had these before come through the council and the planning commission. It's very hard for redevelopment of a single building to adapt to all of the codes that we've adopted over the years for the town center overlay and other things. The applicant, Pastor Dwight Hyman for Lifegate International, has requested variances from our requirements for architectural controls, lighting, that sort of thing. And we have reviewed the application very thoroughly. We took it to Planning Commission. The Planning Commission did pass this with recommendations. There are 10 conditions in it. We had very little in the way of public input at that hearing. One person who did talk about problems with vagrants coming across there, but we hope that that would be mitigated somewhat by actually utilizing the building again and putting it back into commerce and having people there. After the hearing, and once we published the documents that came out to council, I did get a visit from a couple of the neighbors who requested that a fence which was erected by the gym, when apparently several years ago they cut down 20 foot of the buffer trees. The fence is located on the back corner of the building. You can barely see it in this aerial photograph. We really had not had that on the front burner of the agenda as we were going through this, but after listening to their concerns and understanding where they were coming from and going back and doing a little searching around the site and discovering that most of those houses were pretty close to that property line, the staff thought it might not be a bad idea if we had a additional condition added this evening, if the council would so desire, to bring that fence into compliance. It's a little rickety right now, but it could be brought back, and we have talked to the client about that, and they did agree to it. The conditions that were adopted by the Planning Commission are in your packet. I'll just run through them quickly. The property is going to be developed in accordance with the site plan and the floor plan that was provided by the client and the architect, CAS. Just to give you a quick idea. And this is the plan. Right now there's a swimming pool on the back of the building, which has been a bit of a problem from a code enforcement standpoint. While it was very hard to find anyone who was responsible for said building. The church wishes to eventually do away with that pool and not have it in service. There are also some, lack of better terminology, some shacks tacked on the back of the building that are going to go away as well. This is their site plan. This is the actual real, what I call the real building, and they will turn that into their church and their offices with classroom space and sanctuary space. They're also looking at filling in the pool, removing it from the back of the building, and adding additional parking as they need. Currently, they have 147 parishioners. So they, with 65 to 70 parking spaces on the site itself, they have plenty of parking. As they grow, they are looking at a cross-access easement with the shopping center for the times that they would be having services so that they could overflow into the main parking area. I love it when the ETLs come. We did come up with, as I said, some conditions of this. The property is going to be developed in general consensus with the plans that we were provided. They will have to meet all the current zoning codes, the building codes and stuff, city regulations for that building. Any variation from the site and com plan as drawn and shown, we'd have to bring it back through the planning process for change. They are going to be providing us a copy of their interparcel access agreements once they're worked out. They do have a general interparcel access agreement that came from several years ago when the shopping center had to provide interparcel access to all of the out parcels. We have that in hand, and when they work out the parking one, we will have that as well. All the outstanding building, property maintenance code violations shall be brought into lawful compliance, including payment of legal fees and liens associated with our work on code enforcement for the building. If you all will remember, we did have to erect a chain link fence over there, and we spent quite a bit of time in court with this thing running back and forth. The 2013 property tax bill will have to be brought up to snuff and paid. The signage on the site, initially they wish to retain the pylon sign, but the Planning Commission changed that, that's condition 5, that all the non-conforming signs, not just those on the building, but all of them would be removed and the new signs would conform. I do understand that the applicant would like to request an extension for the pylon sign, and they will address that in their presentation. The existing building lighting, which is non-conforming, would have to be brought into conformance, which basically requires downlighting shaded structures so that you don't see the source of the light. Condition 7, any improvements made to the property as part of the initial building permit issued during the first 12 months from the date Mayor and Council approves the CUP shall not trigger a substantial building permit. However, after the first 12 months from the date of Mayor and Council approval, all future improvements or redevelopment with a total value in excess of Gwinnett County Tax Assessor's 100% assessed value will be subject to the requirements of a substantial building permit and all of the applicable conditions and development regulations. Condition 8, the following variances were approved: to be exempt from requiring the use to front on a street for a distance of at least 100 feet. They actually only have about 40 feet of frontage on, I think it's Hugh Drive that goes down into the shopping center. But because they're attached to a grossly overparked shopping center, they have plenty of frontage available to them. The ordinances require that churches be capped at 3 acres. They are to be exempt from that. They are a 3.8 acre site plus or minus, but almost an acre and a half of that is in woods and is not really developable. The existing structure should be exempt from the 50-foot front yard building setback and a 10-foot side yard building setback. The 60-foot undisturbed buffer along the northwest property line abutting residential property zoned RS 180 can be reduced to 40 feet as shown on sheet A01. That's already been done at some point in space and time, and the area has been developed. The applicant is exempt from having to bring the property into current code requirements of the development regulations, zoning ordinance, and buffer and landscape tree ordinance. However, any new construction or redevelopment from the condition 7 would also bring those current regulations into play. Condition 9 allows the planning department and the director to make decisions on non-substantial variances as the project proceeds, which just helps the process to flow a little better. Condition 10, in the event that the subject property is not leased, purchased, or occupied by Lifegate International within 12 months from the date of the action of the mayor and council, then the CUP is null and void. Any questions?
Yes, sir. Is it in the intent of Lifegate to purchase the property and make the improvements, or to lease the property, or long-term?
They are purchasing it.
They are going to purchase it. Okay, thank you.
Additional questions for Mr. Davis?
Who has number 11?
That's a good question. I leave that up to the group.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Yes, ma'am.
Is the applicant present? Yes. Would you like to say anything?
Good evening. I am Chad Alexander Smith, president of Cass Architecture, and I am here on behalf of Lifegate International. Certainly a joy and a pleasure to be here. I want to first thank each of you for your service to the community. It's actually going to be 10 years ago next week that I was elected council member, and a lot has changed in 10 years. It's interesting because we're in a different economy than we were 10 years ago. And a lot of the ordinances and overlay requirements, this is in the corridor or the downtown overlay, weren't in existence 10 years ago. And when I was on the council, the idea was to create a lot of those requirements in order to slow growth within the city, regulate growth, and have quality growth. Those same ordinances now are prohibiting growth because of the economy. There's certain constraints that we didn't foresee at the time. Regularly in these meetings, we would have anywhere from 4 to 5 rezonings at each of the meetings, and it was becoming, it was too much at one time for the city. And so some of these ordinances and overlays were developed. And it's interesting now because they need to be revisited in order to still maintain the quality, but to encourage future economic development within the city. I don't have to tell each of you that Snellville is struggling, the older neighborhoods, some of the commercial retail is over 10 years old and has seen better days and needs to be revitalized. So this type of development, having a church come into a shopping center that's blighted and want to invest in this shopping center, put money into it, and bring church members into the shopping center, we feel is a positive thing for the city. John did a wonderful job. You all should be proud of your staff and John especially. It was a very complicated, complex process to figure out all the ordinances and relief that we had to ask for, and John was outstanding with that. We had a number of meetings with him, and we came up with these conditions that we feel will. The idea is to take this piece of property and improve it, but this is a church where it's funded by donations. So the idea is to be able to move into the building, start worshiping in the building, and develop a master plan over the long term. That master plan may be redeveloping this existing building. It may be removing this building and putting a new building on the property somewhere. But what we're asking for today is, within these conditions, is so that the church can pretty much move in immediately and begin having service. So I'm here to answer any questions if we want to. We are asking for relief from condition 5. This was something that was discussed at the Planning and Commission meeting a month or so ago. There is a pylon sign that exists out in the front of the development, and we agree it's not very sightly. The church would like to ask for relief from removing that sign for the first 12 months that it occupies the building. All right, there we go. So here's the sign here. It's not the most pleasing sign in the world. Initially, we were thinking that we would remove. This was the sign initially for the development. Had other tenants that were in the existing building that were on this sign. The idea was we were going to move all those tenants and then have a life gate sign on there. The planning commission, the sign does not conform to the existing sign ordinance, and there's no point in trying to bring it up to the new sign ordinance. So the idea was just to remove it, and then we would start over with a whole new process of designing a new sign. So we would ask that for item 5, that you would amend the condition or add to the condition, enforcement of said improvements shall be withheld for 12 months from date of conditional use permit. Also, we had talked about the existing fence that is on the property. And you can see the fence is right here. It's on the wooded side adjacent to the existing neighborhoods. The church certainly wants to be a good neighbor. They don't want to do anything to impose upon the adjacent property owners. In fact, they want to have the property owners as members in their congregation. They want to invite them to church service, Wednesday night dinners, and so forth. So the church is certainly, we discussed either in improving the fence or removing the fence and adding a suitable fence in its place as a screening fence. It seems like there was some concern as far as the neighbors that this would be some type of buffer fence. Eventually, long term, the church would like to surround the rear parking lot with some type of fence for security reasons, so that after hours some of their vehicles and different things could be protected. So this is certainly within that master plan. I'll leave it up to each of you on how to word that as condition 11. I can certainly entertain any questions. That concludes my presentation.
Questions for Mr. Smith?
Yeah, Chad, on the sign portion of it, are you talking about just removing the top sign, or are you talking about the whole structure?
It was my understanding from the planning commission they wanted the whole structure removed.
Okay.
We got an initial number of be about $3,500 to do something like that.
Right.
At this time, we're asking for relief. We'd like to go ahead and get into the building, start using the building, and raising funds. There's going to be we can't just move straight into the building. There's certain things that have to be done in order to occupy the building. You know, we're going to paint and clean up and those kind of cosmetic things, but there's a cost associated with that.
Well, it looks like 4 other businesses use that sign. I mean, it looks like it's 5 levels.
That's correct, but none of those buildings are there now.
Okay.
I mean, none of
None
those
of the businesses are there
in,
now. Okay.
within the building
That
now.
was
Right.
the question.
So the church is purchasing the whole building.
I got you.
So the idea is for the church to occupy the whole building. Now,
Okay.
will it be sublet to some other, a Christian bookstore or something? That certainly is a possibility.
Additional questions?
What do you propose to do with the sign to get it to where it's serviceable for you without being quite as unattractive as it is now?
Initially, what we had hoped for was that we were going to remove all the signs that are on the structure, and then we would add a new LifeGate International sign to that existing structure is what we had hoped for. But some of the planning commissioners felt that sign was less than desirable. I don't know, and John and I discussed it a little bit. I don't know if we can make that sign conform to the existing ordinance. So we're just asking for relief from it for the first 12 months.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Chad, one question on that sign. If we were to grant that 12-month extension on that, would the church be amenable to at least cleaning that thing up where it's got broken
Absolutely.
glass and everything, just
The
make
church-
it somewhat presentable?
I think the council and the church are in line with what they want to do. The church wants to make the property as pleasing as possible to the community. It's just they're working with limited funds, and there's certain things like HVAC and all that you don't see that you've got to that have to be working in order to occupy the building, and that's where the money's going right now, is the roof and the HVAC. Certainly down the road, we would like to have facade improvements and add different things to the exterior of the building. We'd love to have a nice new sign out there as well. So those are long-term goals, but initially we're asking for relief from that. The idea is that we get into the building, start having services, and hopefully people in the community come to the church, and the church continues to grow and can raise donations.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. This is under our public hearing, so I'll open the floor if anyone in the audience has any comments either for or against this application.
Marcy Ferris, 1749 Ridgedale Drive. I don't have a comment against the church. I'm for the church. I just have a concern that we have a town center overlay plan. And I don't think where new businesses coming now are being directed to the proper areas. This is in the educational section of the town overlay. And I think for the future, we need to be looking at the town overlay in conjunction with the new businesses coming in.
Thank you, Ms. Ferris. Additional comments? Seeing none, I'll close the floor to public comment and I'll open it to council for a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve CUP 13-06 with the conditions presented by Planning and Development, as well as the addition of condition number 11. The property owner will retain the existing buffer fence between the wood line and the parking lot on the northwest portion of the lot. If the fence needs either repair or replacement, it shall be returned to its original condition. Back to condition number 5, I don't see any issue with giving the church relief to leave that sign and not have to remove it for the next 12 months, or 12 months from today's date.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Emmanuel. Any further discussion of council? I have something to say. Mr. Hyman, usually I support any church that comes into our community. I think churches are a wonderful asset to our community. They often fill a void that the government cannot. But in this case, I cannot support this rezoning. I actually agree with Ms. Ferris, so I don't know if you got that on the record. That may be the only time I say that, Ms. Ferris. But I think that this location is not proper for this zoning. This is in our town center overlay district. In the past, we've put forward visions that we have for this piece of property. In my state of the city, I put forward a vision to have some type of recreational or after-school program for high school students in this building. It is a vacant building. I would love to see it renovated, but sometimes if we have a vision and we set standards, we need to have the guts to stick by those, even if it means a piece of property needs to stay vacant for a little while. So I wish your church all the luck. I just wish it could be in a different location, and because it is in this location, I can't support it tonight. I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. That's 5 in favor. All those opposed, that's 1 opposed. The rezoning stands approved. That brings us to B, second reading, consideration and action on home rule ordinance to amend 2.19B to the charter for notification of special meetings. Currently, our city charter allows us to call a special meeting if we notify the other members of council in person or by telephone. This amendment would allow us to notify members of council by notice through email with 24-hour notice. Mr. Powell, this has been advertised. With that, I will open the floor. This is on our public hearing. I'll open the floor to any public comment, either for or against this action. Seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion of this and open it to council for a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the home rule ordinance to amend 2.19B to the charter for notification of special meetings.
There is a motion. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Sabag. Any further discussion of council?
Initially, when this came up to the work session, I had some reservations about it, about some of the language in the document. And it's been rewritten and done well, and I appreciate the work of Mr. Tony Powell. We all know that we are in the age of telecommunications. Everybody here has a smartphone, in the room, and we live in a very fast-moving technology. We know about, some of you probably heard of Moore's Law, that says technology will evolve every 18 months and probably reduce in price, and this is where we are going to be. We have technology, and yes, information exchange is happening at the speed of light, and because of this, I am in favor of adding or changing the charter of notification, and I will support this tonight.
Additional comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion as stated signify by raising your right hand. That's 6 in favor. All those opposed, that's 0 opposed. The motion stands approved. That concludes our public hearing. Now, under new business, we have A, consideration action on purchase and upgrade of an existing computer radio workstations and purchase of a third system. Do I have a motion to purchase the third system, not to exceed $9,683.85?
So moved.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Emmanuel. Any further discussion? You both have your microphones on. Further discussion? This is for our 911 system to purchase a third workstation so we can add a 911 operator. I'll call the question. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. That is 6 in favor. All those opposed, 0 opposed. The motion stands approved. That then brings us to item number B, consideration action on purchase of a CJIS Advanced Authentication Server and licenses. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a motion to purchase Advanced Authentication Server and all licenses from Beacon Software Solutions for $8,295? There is a motion by Councilman Howard. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Emmanuel. Any further discussion?
I just think we ought to tell people all this is going to be reimbursed through the SDS, so it's not coming out of the budget, hopefully. We're pretty confident it will be reimbursed.
Seeing no further discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. That's 6 in favor. All those opposed, that's 0 opposed. The motion stands approved. Item number C, we have consideration action on a resolution to transmit the short-term work program update. That is Resolution 2013-22. Whereas the mayor and council of the city of Snellville has completed the short-term work permit update as part of the 20-year comprehensive plan update. Whereas this document was prepared according to the standards and procedures for local comprehensive planning effective May 1st, 2005, and established by the Georgia Planning Act of 1989, and the required public hearing was held on October 14th, 2013. Be it therefore resolved that the mayor and council of the city of Snellville, Georgia, do hereby transmit the short-term work permit update portion of the 20-year comprehensive plan update to the Atlanta Regional Commission and the Georgia Department of Community Affairs for official review. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2013-22? There is a motion by Councilman Sabag. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Witz. Any further discussion of council? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. That's 6 in favor. All those opposed, that's 0 opposed. The motion stands approved. Item D, consideration